All right. Let's go ahead and get started again. This is Mark Sher with Intermedia, and we're here to talk about something that's, well, it's probably pretty near and dear to all of our hearts. What are we going to do to help enable our partners for remote work, not only for right now, but really for whatever's to come next? We call this distance doesn't have to mean disconnected. And just another quick reminder for those who've just joined, feel free to use the Q&A, the question icon at the top of the screen there, and we'll get to your questions, I promise. Like I said earlier, if I say something like, give me a thumbs up. Feels good for me anyways. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off for now. I just wanted everyone to see me. When I turn my video off, the screen will get a little bigger so you can see it. By the way, I'm coming to you from my home in Bellevue, Washington, just outside of Seattle. We have an office here in Bellevue, and it's not raining, but it's not sunny either. That was last weekend. So anyways, let's get my video turned off, and away we go. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to obviously talk about how things have changed and how we're seeing businesses react to this change. We're going to absolutely talk about the tools that we have that are really making a difference, and I'll give you some examples. And as I said earlier, it's really important to think not just right now, but to be able to help your customers think about solving their problems, not just for today, but for tomorrow, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. Um, and given that, and spoiler alert, a lot of what we're going to talk about is flexibility, right? People need flexibility. All right, so look, although you probably don't need a refresher on this, we know things have dramatically changed, right? Customers could come visit you, your customers. Your customers could visit with their customers. The business had lots of air quotes, doors, right? A physical front door, which is not currently open in many businesses, maybe soon, hopefully. But email is a door to the business. Phone is a door to the business. Lots of different doors to the business. And remote working was optional. Some studies it's somewhere between 3 and 15% of folks were able to or were working from home pre-COVID, right? Well, there's something happened and everyone is remote. And when I say everyone, I don't mean every single person, but I'm reading some very recent surveys as of April 28th. One from Altman Valandry is showing that almost 40% of the U.S. labor force is working from home. That's like 62 million workers. Um, and we're not sure exactly where it was. Like I said, somewhere between 3 and 15% before that. But either way, it's a big shift, right? And as the trusted advisor to so many businesses, we know you're being asked to, like, what do we do? How do we manage this? And I'm here to help you with that. And one of the things that we've seen, and that you've probably seen too, is that businesses fell into a couple different categories, right? Some were prepared. Some were already running cloud solutions, and they were able to kind of pivot folks home much easier. They already had the collaboration tools. They were mobile enabled. Others are trying to adapt right now very quickly. And I know they're asking you, how do we do this? We're also seeing businesses just completely pivot their business. Um, we're seeing, obviously restaurants going from dine in to delivery. Well, when you pivot your business, you can't forget to pivot your technology with it, right? Great example. It's such an easy example. Restaurant, right? Traditionally, they're dine in, their phone rings, someone's asking for directions, someone's trying to make a reservation, but it's not, it's not the primary door to their business. The primary door was their front door. Now it's their phone because now they're a takeout business. But if they're using the same old technology, likely the second or third call is getting a busy signal. But if they update their technology stack for not a lot of money, they could, for example, queue those calls. Hey, thanks for calling the Main Street Grill. You still can't come in and sit with us, but we'd love to get you some food. You're the second caller. We'll get you as soon as we can. Here's some wonderful music you can listen to, or here's Steve, reading your menu. The caller holds, and then they're connected rather than calling the guy down the street, right? So business pivots have to come with business technology pivots to match the pivot, right? And so that's part of this kind of new way, and that's what we're seeing a lot in those three categories: the prepared, the adapting, and the pivoting. And then there's the ones who are really really struggling because they're unable to do the adapting or the pivoting, right? And they're the ones looking for a lot of help. Okay, so now what, right? Great, thanks, Mark. For explaining to us the obvious situation that everyone's in. Um, but that's okay. We'll talk about the now what. Now what are we going to do about it? Now how are we going to talk about it? And so really, what I want to do is I want to teach you how to have that conversation with your customers about their communications, right? And so what I've done or tried to do is really net it out into something really simple, a simple conversation that you can have with your customers that leads to solutions. Um, here's how I've kind of netted it out. There are really no regardless of what's going on in the world. It could be, 6 months ago, it could be today, it could be 6 months from now. There are two specific types of communications that need to be enabled for businesses. And we're going to talk about those. And we're going to teach you how to talk about those. Number one is collaboration between your employees, between the employees of a business. Okay. Number two is that connection between the business and their customers. All right. And by the way, if you guys like this webinar, we have bundled it up for you to use with your customers. So in many ways, maybe I'm kind of hopefully teaching you how. What my goal is to teach you how to have that conversation, and our wonderful marketing group has provided this stuff to you so you can have these same conversations. So again, the first is the collaboration between employees, and the other is the connection between the business and the customer. So when you're talking to your customer, look, we want to make sure you've got these two things covered, because if you don't have these two things covered, it's going to be really tough for you to do the other things you need to do, in your business. All right. So let's go into this employee collaboration, because there's a lot of different definitions for collaboration. It could be sitting in a meeting room and having a huddle, or who knows what, but I've got a pretty specific definition, as you can imagine. So what is employee collaboration? Um, in my definition, collaboration means that employees can share information. Well, maybe it's obvious. They can call each other. They can asynchronously, so they can bi-directionally, right, and asynchronously communicate with each other. So calling is messaging. They can share files, and they can see each other, right? We still need that human connection. Although, we're hearing a lot of burnout, right? People are getting kind of burned out on the online meetings with the 12 cameras and everyone's looking at everyone else, and someone's not wearing pants. But nonetheless, these things have to get enabled, right? So how do we do this, right? What are the tools? What are the tools to do this? Well, first, there is the online meeting, the video conferencing solutions, which are great. I mean, massive spike in demand. Everyone's seen this. It's very obvious worldwide, and they're great. But you don't run your business on this, right? Your customers can't call you through Zoom, a Zoom meeting, or even any meeting. You can't. This is part of a solution. It's not the solution, right? It's great. And by the way, I hope you already know this, and if you don't know this, I'll tell you now, and then I'll tell you again later. We are providing to you and your customers our any meeting solution for free for the rest of the year. And this isn't something that stops at 40 minutes or has a real limited, usage. This is our pro version. So if you're not already using it, it's yours. If you want to give it to your customers, that's awesome. Free for the end of the year. Okay. So it's not the whole solution. You can't run your company on this. And this isn't even just you can't just use this as a communication tool for your people. It's part of that, right? For that internal collaboration. One of the most important we're still on internal communication tools is, and we're finding this to be true, and we're seeing a huge uptick in usage and adoption of our team chat, right, for quick messaging. It's becoming a very preferred method of communication. It's quick to use. You can enable groups. You can then take a conversation into a screen sharing, into a phone call. You can have attachments. You can search. You can add people and take people out of groups. You can remove yourself from a group. You can mute a message now. Really a very, very important part of that internal communications. And when we're talking about how to message this, the biggest part of messaging this to your customers is that it's all in one. The last thing people want is a whole bunch of different apps, right? App overload, more to learn, more to be confused about. How well I do it this way in this app, and I got to do it this other way in this app, and I did it backwards, and I forgot. The reason we put this all in one place is because that way it's much easier for you to deploy it and for people to learn how to use it. And then for those of you who aren't super familiar with our whole stack of communication solutions that comes with our application, I just talked about the chat component, but that's simply one component, right? So when I need to communicate and collaborate with other people at Intermedia, I'm using most of the tools in this toolbox and the Swiss Army knife, right? I'm using the built-in phone to call people. When I was at my desk at the office, I had a physical phone. I had a nice Polycom phone. It was great. That was my kind of go-to way to talk to people. I talk to everyone through my computer. Now I'm talking to you through my computer, right? I don't have a phone here at my home office. I'm completely phone free, but my computer is my phone, right? As I mentioned, we have the chat. I host meetings, I attend meetings, I do it right through the same application. My files are all stored here in this application, right? So every user gets the ability to have file storage, synced to the cloud, accessible from anywhere with built-in backup. I'm not having to worry about VPNing in to get to some file server, to get to some shared file, and then dealing with congestion on the VPN or having a license or having a separate app running to get my VPN going. All my files are safely and securely here, and I can easily share them. I got my voicemails, which are transcribed to me. And super important is I have presence. And, look, when we were on the office, I could just poke my head out the door and see if you were in your office, and I could see if you're on your phone, no big deal. But we're all at home. And so that presence indication has become kind of a really important, way to know when and how I should communicate with someone. Hey, you're on the phone. I'm not going to bug you. Or you're on the phone. I'm not going to call you. I'll send you a quick IM. Hey, I know you're on the phone. But when you get off, give me a shout. I'm in Bellevue. You're in New York. We're communicating and we're making it efficient, right? As I mentioned, we want to be able to use the video tools. We can elevate anything into a video or a call. We always have the company directory built in. It's an Active Directory. Everyone's nice, beautiful face shows up. If it's already an Active Directory, you can add the image yourself, and then we can kick off a video call. So again, all of these are individual tools that people need to use to keep connected and collaborate with the people they work with. We haven't even talked about externally yet, right? And they're all in one place, right? This is the important part. It's all in one place. And look, let's be honest, there are point solutions that may have a better this, or this point solution has a better that. But I think that when you look at the value of putting it all together in one place, A, from a cost perspective, it's very compelling. B, from a deployment perspective, it's much easier. You're deploying one application instead of multiple. From a support perspective, right now, support is much, much more scattered. It used to be, well, everyone's in the office. There was an IT person. You could show up. Your people could show up, walk around, talk to people. Everyone's remote now. So these solutions need to be integrated, because you don't want to be managing lots of different solutions, especially in a remote environment. Okay, so that was a bit about the conversation around enabling employees to communicate and collaborate with each other. Okay, now we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about how we stay connected with our customers in this world, right? As we mentioned, just having an online meeting solution is not going to really help you that much, because they can't, they want to call you still, they want to talk to you. And so what businesses really need, and we're seeing this, right? First, and maybe it's obvious, but you got to have a phone system that can route calls to wherever your people are, right? Premise-based systems struggle with this. You need to be able to enable mobile. You need to be able to enable work from home office, and you need to have that flexibility. And putting this all in the cloud, of course, makes it easy, right? Because you're not having to worry about it. What businesses need is a platform that just simply doesn't care where people are. It shouldn't have to. The next thing is, what businesses need is for when employees are calling customers or calling outside of the business, you want them calling from the business, right? You want them calling from the business phone number, not their mobile phone, not their home phone, right? You want that outbound caller ID to be that of Mark at Intermedia, not Mark's cell phone, right? Because you don't want to break up the concept of business, right? And lose control over that communication between your people and the business's customers and their contacts, right? Instant messaging, or sorry, text messaging, SMS messaging, super important, right? Now more than ever. So it's very important that your employees be able to text message with their contacts and vice versa. And again, you don't want that on their personal cell phones. That's why we enable it in all of our apps, right? And then, look, not everybody uses faxes. There are certain verticals that are still very fax heavy, legal, medical, and one thing we know is that fax machine is probably still plugged in to that office, which is not open. So having faxes that are cloud-based, a fax solution that's cloud-based, a fax solution that takes a fax in and then distributes it via email, you almost can't do the remote work without it. I mean, you're not going to have people driving into the office to check the fax machine and send faxes, right? So you gotta have a solution that enables fax for those specific verticals, that need it. And medical's absolutely one of them. And medical is one of the verticals that's struggling right now. They have offices where, and we're talking to medical clinics where the most essential folks are in the office, and the less essential, I don't want to call them non-essential, everyone's essential, the less essential are work from home. So now they split their office, and they need to keep everyone communicated. I was talking to a customer in California called Invita Medical, and they're a cancer clinic, and they're telling us that they'll likely keep the remote workers remote. Turned out that using our solutions, they were able to keep connected with them. Their customers were still able to reach them. They could still reach their customers. They're saving on real estate cost. And they were able to hire people from anywhere and get the best people, rather than just hiring people who could drive to their clinic and come to work. Um, and so I think we're going to see this, by the way. I think we're going to see a lot of this, work from home, stay at home. Okay, so just kind of getting back into the how we communicate. Mobile app, super critical, right? Yeah, the employees are going to want to use mobile, but again, we don't want them using their phone number to call and their phone number to text. We want them to use the business phone number. How do you do that? You simply use the app. You can call anyone in your company, you can call anyone outside your company, and you get all the great stuff. You get the presence, you get the voicemail, you get the chat, and you get all the business phone features that most of the phone features you'd get on a expensive, Polycom or Yealink phone. You get the hold, the park, the transfer, the flip, just like you do in the desktop app. And I won't show the desktop app again, but the point that I'm making here, showing it again, is it's the same app, right? It's the same application for internal communication and external communication, and that's the important part, right? That's the part that makes it easy, again, easy to deploy, easy to sell, easy to support, right? Again, one application for all of the different types of communication that you may need. Okay, very quickly, without going too deep, I just wanted to remind you about contact center. And there are huge groups of people who traditionally would sit in rows of cubicles in an office with headsets on, working with customers all day long in a contact center. Can't do that now. And you probably can't do that tomorrow or the next day. And even when it's time to go back to work, there will be new rules around how closely people can sit, and how people will work in offices. And that highly dense contact center isn't going to be around for a while. So what does that mean? It means people are going to have to work from home in a contact center environment, and through the tools that Intermedia has, it's fully enabled. It's cloud based, and it can work with any type of endpoint. Your a mobile phone could be the endpoint, a home phone, the soft phone, right? So helping your customers move to a cloud-based contact center solution will give them the ultimate flexibility they need, and it can layer on top of whatever they got now. They don't have to have the full-blown unified communications solution. We can layer it on top of their old phone system. Works like a charm. So contact center can be complicated. Contact center can be difficult to talk about. It goes very, very deep. But here's the good news. We got lots of really great experts that will go side by side, arm in arm with you to talk to your customers and make it easier to sell. And so take us up on that. We're absolutely here to help on that. And this is a solution that others just simply don't have. Teams doesn't have this. Zoom doesn't have this. Other of our competitors use third parties and aren't integrated, right? They're leveraging others to do this for them. The nice thing about the Intermedia Contact Center is it's integrated. You can order it, you can quote it, and it's all through the same company. I've talked about this, but I just did want to make a note that as you're talking to customers, it's important that there's still that eye-to-eye contact, especially in a sales capacity. So I would just urge you to remind your customers that using a video conferencing in a sales call really lets the salespeople who would traditionally be able to sit down across the desk from someone, at least sit down virtually across the desk from someone. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about why wouldn't someone have already adopted a cloud solution? Or why wouldn't someone adopt a cloud solution now? And kind of talk through some of the myths, and then talk about, why they're just myths. So the first is, yeah, sounds great. I'd love to move my company to a cloud solution. I like everything you're saying, but um, our office is closed. I can't enable this. Well, that's the beauty of the cloud. You don't have to be in the office to enable this. It's all web based. People, all the tools you need are online. We know you will order it online. It'll get provisioned online, turned up, and then configured online. And then each user can download the stuff they need and learn through videos that are online. Which kind of gets me to my next one. My people won't be able to learn new tools. And that's why we have so many different videos for you to share with your customers and their users, and tutorials and collateral. We're finding that people pick this up very, very quickly. Again, also because it's all in one app. It's all in one place. And they're not having to download a whole bunch of different stuff and learn a whole bunch of different logins, and one login for one app that does all the stuff you need. Takes too long, isn't too complicated. We're turning up, and hopefully you guys are experiencing this too. We're turning up customers in a day. We've done Rush Contact Center in 2 days, which can take weeks and weeks and weeks. We're turning that stuff up in 2 days. Our teams are here working ready to help you turn up customers as fast as you want. I have to change my infrastructure. That's really the another great thing about cloud is once you've deployed it, it doesn't change your infrastructure. Your costs should never change, and the user behavior really shouldn't have to change regardless of where people are working. Which also gets me to the next one, which is I don't want to change solutions once we go back to the office. And nor do we. We don't want you to change solutions when you go back to the office, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how long people will be in the office. We don't know if we'll have to bounce back to home. Again, that's the best part about a cloud-based solution is it doesn't and shouldn't care, where you are. It's the same solution regardless. Okay. And then I want to talk about this a little bit, which is how moving to the cloud is not a throwaway investment, and not only isn't a throwaway investment, but we're just getting a lot of indication both from our partners, our customers, and the surveys that we're reading that work from home is going to be much, much more prevalent. And I'll share some statistics with you that were pre-COVID, right? So this was pre-COVID. You could only imagine these are getting, these numbers are higher, right? 27% less idle time for people who are remote. People are working longer, and they're happy to do it, right? Because they're not having to commute. They're finding other benefits, so they're working longer. 98% of workers have said, now this wasn't always, this wasn't enabled pre-COVID, but it said that they wanted to work remote. Many said that it felt like it would reduce stress. The millennials, which make up a majority of the workforce, are simply requiring more flexibility in when, how, where they work, and requiring more modern tools to do their work. And when it comes to retaining your best people, we're seeing that you'll have the ability to retain workers at a much higher rate when you offer kind of this remote work environment. So a few final thoughts just to leave you with. So first of all, where people work really should be irrelevant, right? And we don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. We do imagine that people are going to travel a lot less, and they're going to work more remotely. And the businesses are going to need to have those tools that we talked about to enable their employees to collaborate with each other and enable them to communicate with their customers wherever they're working from. Because again, it's it could be state by state, it could be week by week. We don't know when people are going to be able to go to the office. We don't know for how long they're going to be able to stay there. We don't know if we're going to be back home again. And that leads me to my final thought, which is flexibility lets a business bend, not break, right? So as long as the people have the tools, right? And those tools work the exact same way in the office or at home or wherever they are for whatever happens next, that business is gonna it's basically one less thing for the business to worry about. Okay, looks like everyone has to go home again. Well, take your laptops. You already have your tools. You've already done this. Keep going, right? Or yep, we're back in the office. Hey, good news. Same tools, same stuff. Nothing changed. And people really, I mean, ultimately, that's what people want. The change is stressful. No one likes it. But if there are certain constants, right, which is the flexibility to be able to work from wherever you want, well, let's take that one off the plate, right? Because businesses have a lot to worry about. So, as their trusted provider and their trusted advisor, it's really your option, but it's also your responsibility to make sure your customers understand that there are solutions that will allow them to be flexible in where their people work without having to change how they work. Um, and so, with that, I'll just remind you one more time that our Any Meeting Pro service is free for you. It's free for your customers. There's no time limit. We've got some great security features like meeting lock. And if you want to host webinars like I'm doing here, you can use our Webinar Pro service for free. So you can talk to groups of your customers, and you can even provide this service to them as well.